Imagine your entire life, like your career trajectory, your daily routines, your carefully constructed protective shell of solitude.
Hmm.
Think about the walls you've built to keep the world at a manageable distance. Now imagine all of that being completely upended, just totally dismantled by a single sentence in a philosophy book.
It sounds like, a romantic exaggeration.
Mm.
But when you look at the historical record, it is exactly what happens when you let an idea bypass your intellect and truly get under your skin.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to explore a truly remarkable collection of correspondence.
Yeah, it's really something else.
It's a published manuscript titled Letters from the House on Skadarlija. What we have here is this incredible stack of letters chronicling a profound years-long exchange between two complete strangers.
Right.
On one side, you have Jelena Marić. She is a 34-year-old Serbian painter living in a crooked, paint-splattered house in Belgrade.
And on the other side, you have Dimitri Kovač. He's a 61-year-old Austrian philosopher living a very quiet, relentlessly orderly life in Graz.
Like, incredibly orderly.
Oh, totally. Very structured. And through these letters, we're going to trace how these two deeply isolated individuals managed to build an incredibly intimate world entirely out of words.
Wow.
We're looking at how they take a highly abstract philosophical concept, specifically the concept of attention, and translate it into a lived, breathing practice of love.
And ultimately, how that practice becomes a devastating but beautiful act of witnessing another person's decline.
Exactly.
In a modern world like ours, which feels so heavily defined by endless distractions, notifications, and just, fleeting focus, this deep dive is really a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shortcut to understanding the radical, life-changing power of simply paying attention to the space in front of you, and more importantly, paying attention to the people standing in that space.
So the whole exchange kicks off in March of 2008. Jelena sends a letter to an address she scraped from the acknowledgments of Dimitri's book, Attention and the Trembling World.
She basically tracked him down.
Yeah, she had been obsessively reading his work because she is creatively and psychologically stuck.
Right, the green chair.
Exactly. For 6 weeks, she has been trying to paint a green wooden kafana chair, just a standard, unremarkable tavern chair. And she genuinely feels like she is losing her mind because she just can't capture it.
She actually copies his quotes by hand into a blue notebook. She mentions in her letter that typing them out on a keyboard would be too fast.
Which is such a fascinating detail.
Right. She says she wants the friction of the pen on paper. Like she wants the words to physically enter her fingers and slow her brain down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one pivotal quote from Dimitri's book that just breaks her wide open. He wrote, "Attention is not a spotlight we direct at the world, but a form of porousness, a consensual vulnerability to being changed by what we notice."
And Dimitri writes back, and he focuses on her reaction to that specific quote. She tells him that reading it made her weep right there in her studio.
Just totally broke down.
Yeah, and he calls this reaction epistemological weeping.
Wait, epistemological weeping. I have to stop you there because that sounds intensely pretentious.
I know, it really does.
Are we just talking about being moved to tears by a good book, or is he claiming there is a specific mechanism happening here?
Well, what's fascinating here is that he's claiming something much deeper than just being emotionally moved. Because epistemology is the study of knowledge, right? How we know what we know.
Right.
Dimitri suggests that epistemological weeping is a biological mechanism where the body recognizes a fundamental truth before the cognitive brain can even process it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a physical bypass. Your intellect is still trying to decode the sentence, but your nervous system has already absorbed the reality of it. And the only way to release that sudden, overwhelming clarity is through tears.
So it's like a gut feeling that completely short-circuits your intellect.
Exactly. And because of his words, Jelena realizes a massive truth about her art. She hasn't actually been painting a green chair for 6 weeks.
She's been painting the attention around the chair.
Exactly. She's been trying to paint the negative space, the weight of the air, the way the light bends around the wood.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's ground this for the listener, because understanding the shift in perspective is crucial for everything that follows.
For sure.
Later in their letters, Jelena notices a spider web in her window frame. It's early morning, and the web is just catching little bits of dust and debris in the light.
I love this part.
Yeah, she uses this to describe what Dimitri is talking about. True attention isn't a laser beam hunting for facts.
Right. It's not aggressive.
Exactly. It's not an interrogation where you aggressively extract meaning from an object. It is exactly like that trembling spider web. It is a structure of almost nothing, just sitting there, completely vulnerable, completely available to receive whatever the world blows into it.
You don't force focus. You build the web and wait.
Yes.
And that distinction, attention as receptivity rather than aggression, is the core of Dimitri's work.
Yeah.
But here is the irony that Dimitri immediately confesses to her.
The philosopher's confession.
Right. He tells Jelena that he has spent his entire career analyzing attention phenomenologically, but he actually lives a remarkably unattentive life.
Okay, before we gloss over that, what does he mean by studying it phenomenologically?
It means he was obsessed with the internal, subjective experience of focus. He wasn't in a lab looking at brain scans or the neurology of the prefrontal cortex,
So no white coats and clipboards.
Exactly. He was sitting in a university office writing abstract essays about what it feels like to look at an object. He was hiding behind academic jargon.
Wow.
Whereas Jelena, on the other hand, is out there in the trenches of non-conceptual experience, fighting with canvas and oil paint to actually make this theory visible to the naked eye.
But staring at a chair and analyzing a theory is one thing. How do two highly isolated people, separated by age, geography, and temperament, turn a shared theory of art into an actual functioning relationship?
They do it by building what Dimitri calls a cricket house out of paper.
I love that phrase so much.
It's beautiful. Over the next year, the correspondence deepens significantly. Jelena starts painting the specific, ugly, beautiful courtyard outside her window in the Skadarlija neighborhood.
She paints cracked plaster, broken drain pipes, stubborn weeds.
Right. Meanwhile, Dimitri, who is entirely inspired by her artistic discipline, attempts to practice true attention himself in the real world.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he picks a linden tree in a park in Graz and tries to just practice not thinking while looking at it.
And it is a spectacular failure at first. He stands in this park, and his academic brain immediately starts categorizing the tree. He notes that it's deciduous, it's roughly 80 years old, and he starts mentally referencing Heidegger's theory of the thingness of things.
And we should probably clarify what that means because it highlights Dimitri's exact problem here.
Yeah, please do.
The thingness of things refers to the urge to categorize and define an object based on its utility or its scientific properties, rather than just experiencing its pure existence.
So putting it in a box?
Yeah. Instead of just letting the tree be a tree, his brain insists on labeling it as a biological specimen. He is failing at his own theory of porousness.
But eventually he manages maybe 10 seconds of true presence where he actually just sees the tree before his intellect ruins it.
And those 10 seconds fundamentally change him. They both admit in these letters that they are intensely lonely people.
Dimitri lives in this overly neat, slightly dead apartment in Austria.
And Jelena lives in a leaning house that constantly smells of oil paint and old coffee.
They are using these delayed middle-of-the-night letters to construct a shared reality. But wait, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because it's easy to be utterly devoted to someone when they only exist on paper. I have to push back on the romance of this setup. Aren't they just hiding?
That's a fair question.
I mean, Jelena even breaks up with her jazz guitarist boyfriend Branko during this period because she says he doesn't understand her practice. Are they just using this long-distance, beautifully written exchange to avoid the messy, unedited reality of a physical relationship? Are they just, acting as these monks of attention who are actively avoiding the friction of real life?
That is a very sharp critique, and it's a fear they actually dissect in the letters themselves. But Dimitri argues something profound in response.
Like you say.
He references the poet Rilke and his relationship with Lou Andrea Salome to explain that for them, distance isn't a barrier to intimacy. It is the exact condition that makes their intimacy possible in the first place.
Wait, how so?
He argues that letters create a third space.
How does that actually work mechanically, though? Like, how does a letter create a space?
It works through the mechanism of asynchronous communication. I mean, think about how you communicate today. If someone says something that upsets you, you can fire off a reactive text message in 3 seconds.
Oh, for sure. The instant reaction.
Right. But with these letters, you are forced into a discipline of waiting. You write a thought, you send it into the void, and you wait weeks for a response.
And during that time?
By the time a letter arrives, the initial spike of anger or defensiveness has completely burned off, leaving only the underlying vulnerability.
Wow.
The delay acts as an emotional filter. You aren't reacting defensively in real time. You are offering your most honest, distilled self to another person.
That makes a lot of sense. Think about the last time you fired off a reactive text in the heat of an argument. Imagine if you were forced to wait 5 days to send it.
It would be a completely different message.
It completely changes the architecture of the conversation. They are essentially paying attention to each other with the same slow intensity Jelena pays to her canvases.
Exactly.
But you can only live in an imagined epistolary house for so long. Eventually, this pristine theoretical web has to collide with the physical world.
And that collision happens in September 2009. Jelena's paintings, the very ones inspired by his book, are included in a major exhibition at the Kunsthalle in Vienna.
Oh, the exhibition titled Duration and Devotion.
Yep. They agreed to finally meet in person at the gallery.
Which is terrifying for both of them. Dimitri shows up in a brand new dark suit. He brings her a handmade leather notebook with an inscription that reads, "For the thoughts between letters."
And they experience what they brilliantly call the new awkward.
The new awkward, I love that.
The new awkward is such a perfect phrase. They are two people who intimately know each other's deepest psychological landscapes, their fears, their philosophical beliefs, but they have absolutely no idea how the other person holds a coffee cup.
Right.
They don't know the cadence of their voice or how they move through a crowded room.
But the meeting doesn't break the spell. In fact, it anchors it. Because in a massive leap of faith shortly after Vienna, Dimitri decides to retire early from his university position.
A huge move.
Yeah. He packs up his life in Austria, moves to Belgrade, and rents a cheap, crooked apartment exactly 2 doors down from Jelena.
It's a dramatic life change, but notice the boundaries they set.
Right, they don't move in together.
Exactly. They maintain their separate spaces. They have morning coffee together at 7. They take turns cooking dinner, but they fiercely preserve their individual solitudes.
I look at their living arrangement like an airlock on a submarine.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's like testing a flawless theoretical physics model in a real-world wind tunnel. They could step into each other's pressurized, messy lives for a few hours to share a meal, but they always had that safety door 2 houses away to retreat behind to decompress. And they needed that airlock because the reality of sharing space immediately creates friction. Dimitri is an older man who needs his rigid systems. Jelena is a chaotic artist who leaves dirty dishes in the sink for days.
The dish fight. The dish fight is the perfect example of this friction.
I love the dish fight because it completely shatters the illusion of the flawless philosopher.
It really does.
You have this brilliant man who can train his mind to stare at a linden tree for hours to achieve pure porousness. But he absolutely cannot handle a sponge in a sink.
Yep.
Dimitri comes into her house and just starts washing her dishes because it's, quote, more hygienic, and Jelena completely snaps at him.
Oh yeah, she accuses him of imposing his sterile Austrian order on her creative chaos. It is such a human reality check.
But here is the mechanism that saves them. The beautiful paradox of their arrangement is that even when they are living 2 doors apart, sharing meals, and a daily physical rhythm,
they continue to write letters to each other.
Yes.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
their love has to evolve from idealized witnessing to the unglamorous, mundane work of bodies sharing space. They slide these letters under the door.
It's so sweet, but also so practical.
Right? They use the letters to process the friction of the dish fight. Because they know the spoken word is too reactive, the letter remains their deepest channel of honesty. It bypasses the immediate annoyance of shared space.
So they figure out how to live together while remaining safely apart. But just as they stabilize this delicate choreography, the ultimate terrifying test of their philosophy arrives. And it's a test they cannot theorize their way out of.
No, they can't. Dimitri's body begins to fail. It starts when he collapses during a guest lecture in Belgrade due to a severe heart arrhythmia.
Oh, wow.
But the cardiac issues are just the physical warning sign. The deeper, much more devastating diagnosis comes a few months later. He has early-stage dementia, likely Alzheimer's.
It's terrible.
Yeah, he realizes, with agonizing clarity, that he is slowly losing his mind.
The way he describes the physical experience of cognitive decline in his letters is chilling.
It really is.
He writes about sitting across the table from Jelena and, for 30 seconds, completely forgetting her name.
Just blank.
Just 30 seconds of absolute terrifying blankness where the woman he loves is a stranger. Knowing that these blank spots are going to get longer and more frequent, Dimitri frantically begins writing.
Right.
He produces a 200-page manuscript while he still has his faculties, which is the exact text we are exploring today. It is a desperate attempt to document their love and his philosophy before it completely evaporates from his brain.
And along with the manuscript, he makes a heartbreaking plea to Jelena. He begs her to let him go when the clear days end.
That's so heavy.
He tells her he doesn't want to linger as an empty shell, as a burden, and he explicitly gives her permission to walk away and move on with her life.
But Jelena flat out refuses to send him to a care facility.
Yep.
She hires a nurse named Maria to help with the medical logistics, but she keeps him in his apartment right there, 2 doors down.
Which fundamentally changes the trajectory of her life and her art.
So what does this all mean for her work? Because her gallery dealer, Marco, comes to her studio during this period and notices a drastic shift.
A huge shift.
She isn't painting light and open courtyard space anymore. She's painting shadows. She's painting Dimitri's empty chair at her kitchen table. She's painting the contrast between lit and dark windows at night.
And Marco looks at these dark canvases and tells her, "You are painting grief."
But Jelena immediately corrects him. She insists she is not painting grief, she is painting love. But how is painting shadows and an empty chair an act of love, though? That sounds exactly like grief to me.
Well, this raises an important question, right? She argues that it only looks like grief to an outsider because true love inherently includes loss. And this brings us to the ultimate ethical conclusion of Dimitri's entire life's work.
What is the actual point of attention?
Exactly. Attention isn't just about noticing beautiful aesthetic things like spiderwebs and trees. It is the brutal ethical obligation of refusing to look away when someone is disappearing.
Refusing to look away. Because looking away is a failure of porousness. It's a refusal to let the ugly, painful reality change you.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Jelena's daily caregiving becomes her highest artistic and ethical practice. She sits with him on the days he is angry, on the days he is confused, the days he genuinely believes she is a hostile stranger keeping him prisoner.
Wow.
She constantly works to bring him back to the present moment. She witnesses his diminishment without abandoning him. She stays in the room.
Dimitri ultimately dies peacefully in his sleep of a massive heart attack at age 67. The letters stop. The active, living correspondence ends. But the artifacts of their incredible attention survive them. We have his published manuscript ensuring his mind outlasts his biology, and we have her dark, beautiful paintings hanging in galleries.
Which brings us back to what this entire journey proves. Attention is a muscular, enduring practice. It is the opposite of passive.
It really is.
It starts with Jelena simply trying to look honestly at a green wooden chair without forcing her ego onto it. It builds into the courage required to truly see another human being, their flaws, their annoying habits, their age.
The dishwashing.
Exactly. And it culminates in the ultimate act of devotion, holding someone in your gaze steadily through their own unmaking.
Attention is not just some cognitive tool we use for workplace productivity or a trendy mindfulness hack. What these letters show us is that attention is the very mechanism of love. How we pay attention to someone is the exact measure of how we love them.
To look at someone with porousness, to willingly allow yourself to be changed and broken by their existence, is the definition of love in its absolute highest form.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over today. In our current era, we are obsessed with leaving a mark. We leave behind massive digital footprints like terabytes of text messages, quick emails, and thousands of instantaneous photos stored on servers.
Tons of data.
Yeah, and we think this digital permanence will keep us alive. But think about Dimitri and Jelena. Will any of our fragmented, reactive digital ghosts ever hold the same immortal weight as the slow, agonizingly deliberate attention of a handwritten letter?
That's the real question.
When future generations look back at the noise of our distractions, will they see who we actually were, or will they only see that we were too busy to truly pay attention to each other? When you look at someone you love today, are you looking closely enough to remember them when they're gone?